Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Youth Perspectives. My name is Syed Mohammed, and as we embark upon the blessed month of Dhul Hijjah, it's just been announced from Saudi Arabia that tomorrow is going to be the first day of Dhul Hijjah. As we embark upon this month, we are reminded of the great significance that the month of Dhul Hijjah has within Islam. It's a time for, spiritual renewal and devotion, a time when we can reflect upon the lessons of sacrifice and faith and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, we know that it's the time of Hajj, the time of the great pilgrimage of all Muslims. Of course, we have Eid al-Adha. Today, in fact, the first of Dhul Hijjah is the wedding anniversary of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Bibi Fatima salam alayha. Of course, we know of the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam that took place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam to sacrifice his son, and we maybe get into that story a little bit later. But this is a very, very special month. And as we know that right after this month, right after the month of Dhul Hijjah, we have this is the last month in the Islamic calendar. And after this month comes the month of Muharram. So right now we're in the first day of the holy, the month of Dhul Hijjah. And so we wish to take an opportunity to deepen our faith and to strengthen our devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our understanding through today's topic. Now we're going to start off, where are we going to start? We're going to start with the topic of sacrifice. What does it mean to sacrifice something? What level does it take? If you're, for example, if you're donating money to charity, what is considered a sacrifice? What about what position do our intentions play in that? And we're going to be looking at the example of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam specifically, and analyzing that story and looking into how it connects to what our responsibilities are in regards to sacrificing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the concept of sacrifice, as we know, holds a great significance. Like we mentioned with the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his willingness to sacrifice his son, Prophet Ismail alayhi salam. Now, why is this important? If you're just thinking about it, like just mentioned that, sacrifice his son. Naturally, you're thinking, okay, just that by itself, something interesting's happening. Now, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, as we know, he was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through his dreams that he had to sacrifice his son Ismail. And as we know that the Prophet's son was very dear to him. The Prophet, he had prayed, he was at the age of over 100 when he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a son. And so, even looking at that, for example, in our time, a person at the age of 100 having a son, that's, you can't even imagine that. Living to 100 is a extreme miracle, let alone having a son at that age. And of course, him and his wife, they prayed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with a son. Now, I believe Prophet Ismail at the age of, he was in his teens at the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to sacrifice his son. Now, this sacrifice, let alone the basic concept, this order to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Prophet was an example to all of us. Because here we have the basic definition. Why do we look at these extreme examples? When we look at the sacrifice of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and we look at the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and even looking at some of the sacrifices that Imam Ali alayhi salam has made, all in, different areas really, but it's all rooted in the same concept. And that concept is to sacrifice what you have for a greater goal. To not be attached to worldly things in this world. Our one duty above everything else is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah shows us through the examples of the people that He has appointed to show us in our lives. Now, how does this relate to us? This relates to us in the way that, looking in our daily lives, what are we attached to? What are the things that we have that are so important to us that sometimes we put those above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And seeing that in order to truly be on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow the footsteps in the prophets and in the imams, we have to have that intention that everything that we do should have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind. So if I donate to charity, if I read my namaz, if I'm just in my living room and I'm watching a movie, everything should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if it's not for Allah, then that's how you know that you're attached to that thing. And that thing really, you can even say that it has something over you. Think about somebody's brand new car. A car is something that, a lot of times it's hard for people to get. It obviously costs a good amount of money. So when people get that, especially after hard work, they work very hard to get a specific car, and they become attached to that car. That becomes something, you try to take care of it. You try to put certain gas in it, and you try to drive a certain amount of, try to keep it under a certain amount of miles. You try to keep it clean. Even think of a new shirt. If you get a new shirt or a new pair of shoes, anything, that automatically has a, priority over something else. So maybe that shirt, I'm not going to eat spaghetti while I'm wearing that shirt. Say it's a white shirt, I'm not going to be eating spaghetti over it. But if it's an old shirt, same white color, I'll do it. Doesn't matter. So these things, you become attached to worldly things that really have something over you because you're attached to it. And so by sacrifice, by, looking at these examples about the son of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam willing to do that. And now it wasn't just about Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Obviously he had this command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you think of what was the reaction from Prophet Ismail alayhi salam. You're thinking he hears that. I mean, we can't put it into today's concepts. That's, there's a reason why these stories are in the Holy Quran. Things for us to look at, really. But, and, take lessons from. But looking into it, what did Prophet Ismail alayhi salam said? He said, whatever you have to do. He understood that if that was the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's, he was perfectly fine with it. And so with that pure intention all around, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam went to sacrifice Prophet Ismail alayhi salam. And then we all know what happened after that. While he went to sacrifice him, in Prophet Ismail's place was a goat came in the place of Prophet Ismail alayhi salam. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his sacrifice. So that was the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. A lesson for us all, really. And especially in the significance that this has in the month of Dhul Hijjah, especially. Obviously, what people do during Hajj, when they sacrifice the animal. Why do they sacrifice that animal? It's in, honor of that. What Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam's true sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, looking at that example, that's one example, right? What's the next example of sacrifice? Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Muharram is just next month. It's pretty, crazy when you think about it, how fast it comes, but Muharram is next month. And Muharram is the month of arguably the greatest sacrifice in, human history. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he sacrificed his family, he sacrificed absolutely everything he had, he sacrificed himself for the religion of Islam, so that truth could be separated from falsehood. So this is another, example that you look up at, right? Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now the next example that is on a level, not on that level in terms of they sacrificed, lives were being sacrificed. But this is another great example that we can look at for ourselves, maybe related to the opportunities that we have to sort of give something up. And that is the story of Imam Ali alayhi salam and his family when they were fasting. And for, a few nights, beggars would come to their houses, and Imam Ali alayhi salam would give them, all the food that they had. And Imam Ali alayhi salam wouldn't eat. He would give them the food. So you're looking at that, right? Is that something that I could do? Is that something that anybody realistically could do? Is that you're fasting all day? It's a, hard thing to fast all day, and all you're thinking about is some food. That's all you're thinking about. And somebody comes at your door, they say, I'm hungry, they need food. And you say, here you go. Don't take the little bit, take all of it. No. Here's a piece of bread. If you're a generous person, you'll give them food. Imam Ali alayhi salam gave them what they had. So that's another pedestal type example that I see these great sacrifices that they've made, and I say, okay, how can I do that myself? How can I try to imitate that? Not imitate it exactly, because of course, that's the difference between the example and, just a follower of that example. So how does this relate? Now let's give an example. So we have all those, examples from the Imams and the Prophets. Now, let's go into, for example, let's say you just got evicted from your house. And let's say you have $500 in your pocket. And you're walking down the street, and you see a homeless person standing there. And the homeless person asks you for money. What do you do in this situation? Should you give the person all your money? Is that sacrifice? Let's think about that for a second. If I gave the person all my money, I guess you would be sacrificing something, because now you don't have anything to eat. Should I give the person half of the money? Should I just walk away? I don't have enough for you. I don't have anything for myself. What should you do? Or should you give the guy, get him some food? So this is a look at sacrifice as it translates to today. Now, before I give the logical answer to this question, let's look at, for example, sacrifice today. If you're donating money to charity, for example, and let's say you're doing someone a favor, right? And somebody needs money, and you say, okay, and then you maybe, you have some deal with them. By donating this money, you're getting something out of it. For example, you donate to build a home or something for somebody in the hopes that you can sell it later for more. Are you really, sacrificing anything? That's not a sacrifice. Or let's say you're at the masjid and you give $100 to charity. So you donate $100 to charity. And we see a lot of the times in our local mosques on, for example, Friday Jummah, when the donation box comes along, and people rarely put in, a couple of dollars. I saw somebody put in a $5, and I was like, my gosh, that guy, he might be going to heaven. Who knows? $5. Now, somebody puts in $100 into, the donation box. So you're thinking, oh, wow, it must be a sacrifice. But it depends, really, because if that person's a millionaire, or that person has, $10,000, however much extra money they have, and you're only putting $1,000, that's not a sacrifice. That's, a good deed, obviously, but that's not a sacrifice. A sacrifice is, physically losing something. You're not in it to gain, in the way that it's not for profit, it's not for, recognition. It's purely, you're losing something. That's what a sacrifice is. So for example, what am I sacrificing? When for example, the masjid, you're volunteering at your masjid, you're doing something, you volunteer to, take out the garbage, you're volunteering at a homeless shelter or anything. You're volunteering, which means you're giving up your time. You're physically losing your time so that you can spread some positivity in the world. You're giving up your time. So that's a positive thing to do. So that qualifies as a sacrifice, really. You're sacrificing your time. Instead of doing this, instead of being at the masjid on Friday prayer, I could be doing anything else. Especially now in the summer, a lot of people, you're off from school or, you're on vacation, whatever. So a lot of the times you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm on vacation, I'm off of school, I don't really want to do anything. But by doing something positive, you're actually sacrificing your time. And so even for the sake of Islam, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Ali, they all lost something. But they didn't think to themselves, I'm losing this and, I can't believe this. I can't believe I'm losing this thing. They knew why they were doing it. They weren't just doing it just to do it. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he didn't go to sacrifice his son because he thought, that's the right thing to do. He did it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to do it. The sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it wasn't out of, arrogance. It wasn't out of this tyrant is telling me what to do. I'm not going to listen to him. And then, his entire family was martyred. That's not what happened. What happened was they sacrificed what they had. In Imam Hussein alayhi salam's case, everything he had for Islam, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message, for the Holy Quran, for you and me. That's why Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed. So we look at these lessons throughout history of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and even, for example, how it translates today in terms of the, if you have $500 and you see a homeless man. Now let's answer that question. You have $500, you see a homeless man. Should you give the guy the money? What should you do? The answer is, you're homeless yourself. You don't have money yourself. So for you to give that money to somebody else, to give all away that money to somebody else, it doesn't really do any good. Because you're losing something and they're gaining something. You're not, we have to do what we're able to give, especially. For example, if you have that money and you're taking care of your family, you have $500, that's all you have, done. And you see a homeless person and you say, oh, here's the $500. I don't need it, sacrifice. I'm sacrificing, this money for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're physically putting other people at risk, putting yourself, in a worse position. You're not supposed to do that. What you're supposed to do is, maybe if you have money, for example, give part of the money. Give part of the money to charity. And just do it purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having blind trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah is the creator of the heavens and the earth. Allah knows what's best for me. But not the entire amount of money. That would not be wise, obviously, for many different reasons. You'll be in the same position as, the person who is needy in the first place. So there's really no use of that. Well, that's all the time that we have for today's program. We brought over some interesting points about the holy month, the blessed month of Dhul Hijjah, and all of the different blessings that were in this month. Also, for example, we have a great opportunity in this month as well. It's also known that if you fast, fasting during the first 9 days of this month is equal to 80 months of fasting for anyone who fasts on the first day of Dhul Hijjah. So, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that ability to be able to do that. It's a great blessing, so we pray to be able to do that. And we pray to be able to also be able to learn more during this month, learn more about the concepts of, sacrifice, especially in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, get the most out of this world and the next world. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Khudafis.